Mason, are we going past turn number 5, or is this game going to be over before turn number 5?
I think we're probably going to go past turn number 5, but I don't think that means Francesco's out. You know, I think one of the things to keep in mind here is the hammer deck can be blazingly fast, but part of what we saw it be so strong during the early MH2 days is it could kill you on turn 2, and it could also play until turn 10 and still kill you. So this deck is definitely not without resiliency.
Yeah, Inkmoth Nexus does a really good job against these control decks being a creature land as well, so it's a little bit harder for them to interact with. You look at all the interaction, it's like prismatic endings and wrath spells. These are all at sorcery speed. Stand fast, there are Teferi Time Rabbits in the deck, so they could potentially end up being cast instant speed if needs be. But this is a great opener that we want to see on the other side. Esper Sentinel, tax the mana on the other side. You want to use a card to get rid of my card? Well, you either got to tap out for it, or you're going to let me go another card deeper into my deck. And of course, starting off with this Ornithopter doesn't seem really threatening, but now because we played it turn 1 means next turn we can attack with it, and potentially because it's turn 2 that means we can equip some big Colossal Hammers to it. So William really going to have to start thinking how he wants to plan out this turn, and he's going to start by shocking in this breeding pool and passing the turn. Whatever could he have for 2 blue mana in a control deck? Or what we're going to do over on Francesco's side. Do we have another land? Is probably step 1.
Yeah, and this is a spot too where obviously you're facing down things like Counterspell. Like you mentioned, this deck has been doing pretty well recently, so you've been keeping up with Modern. This might be something that you're kind of aware of. Also, if you haven't been, right, like maybe you're waiting for the BNR, you got a hometown event, you might not be as prepared for this here. So having these main deck Witch Enchanters are going to give you an answer to Temp Lockdown, which can be kind of annoying, but we're going to play the Sigarda's Aid, and if it sticks, things can get a little spicy.
Well, that's the key one, right? Does this resolve? If this resolves, everything gets a lot harder for William on the right, because equipments can be cast at instant speed, they can be equipped like at instant speed, which makes things really hard, especially when there's an Esper Sentinel on the battlefield. Do we counter it? If we do, then we don't have an extra mana to pay for the Esper Sentinel's trigger, which means we're basically 2 for 1-ing ourselves in this instance. Maybe we fire off this Solitude first that we see as brought to the front of the hand. But no, we're going to pay the counter spell. We're not going to pay the extra 1. You can go a card deeper. It is a basic Plains.
Yeah, so one of the things talking about Esper Sentinel is like it does sort of tax your opponent in these ways, right? And like you saw, we could have Solituded there in order to like make it they don't get a card. But Francesco deck is sort of a critical mass deck, right? And it needs to have all of its pieces. So it seems like maybe that's not the end of the like it's not good to have that happen, right? And you need to 2-for yourself, but it needs specific pieces. So holding here is actually something that makes a lot of sense if your hand's a little light on things that could answer other problematic cards, right? Like a Pure Steel Paladin, if you don't have an answer to that could be game ending. So it's better to give them a card than be dead.
Giver of Runes was the follow-up play there, using all our mana up, but of course this deck does have Mana Tide in it as well. You love to see it. Only 1 copy, but by able to play with 1 white mana up, making a William kind of think, does he have it? Because it is a closed deckless tournament, so wouldn't be fully aware, might just get caught out by it later on as the game goes. It looks like we're tapping out for a Narset here. Would you like to pay the extra 1? No, I cannot. You could draw another card. That's 2 cards now drawn for it, as Narset's going to get ticked down. Finds Solitude, Honest Chance, a land, and that card that I remember that
Cosmic Rebirth.
That's the one.
That is a card Honorog and I both love a lot of, and kind of a sick take here because you can just get back your Narset, meaning Francesco might not fight over the Narset as much, right? Which will buy you a little bit of like card advantage. And if he does go after it, then you just buy it back and do it again. Notably too, with Narset in play, now when it's our turn, we just like don't need to pay for the Narset. Sorry, when it's their turn, because they would already have drawn 4 turn.
And smartly doing the Solitude in our turn here before that Mother of Runes, the tapper can't stop. Can't get words out of my mouth now, which is going to be a big problem. Is the Giver of Runes, not Mother of Runes, so now we can't tap that to give any of our creatures protection. I still don't know about that Cosmic Rebirth. Like, I only know about that card purely because of watching a new streams. Here comes Paladin though.
Oh, you had seen the things I do with Cosmic Rebirth. It makes Honorog stuff looks way spikier. No redrawing though because of Narset.
Yep,
I'm out here bringing back Eternal Witness. Will, that's what I do with that card.
No, I don't like people like you. You make my life harder.
That's
We're going to equip this card, the hammer, because we've got 3 artifacts on the battlefield. So we can turn it sideways now. Is this going face or is this going to go to the Narset? Going to the face. That's 11 points of damage to William. Dropping him down to 4. Follow-up play, if any. Can't quite. Is that Solitude in hand?
It is, yeah. This hammer deck, it has all these spell lands, and so it plays a couple Solitudes main and side to be able to remove some problematic creatures and have, just a little grind, because it's just, you're dealing so much damage that typically doesn't matter.
You may not draw more than one.
Narset's going to get ticked down.
Okay, so I can still draw this on your turn. On my turn, yes.
I wonder if we were going to equip the hammer to the Ornithopter and get in 10 to William and 1 to the Narset, so the tick down would end up killing it. Or was there a reason not to do that because we know about the Cosmic Rebirth?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the real question is, do you think Cosmic Rebirth is a card you care about in that regard, right? That's, kind of the real question. There's also something we said about, getting in the 1 more point of damage. If the creature with the hammer dies on it, right, putting William to 4 means your Pure Steel Paladin kills in 2 turns instead of 3 turns, which can matter. I think Francesco's just trying to make a small game, not a long game. And this Orange Chant might end up being pretty clutch here.
Oh, it's going to be huge. Being able to use the kicker mode, and we're doing it here. I'm pretty sure we're using the kicker mode here. The kicker mode in upkeep, so before any spells can be cast. Means you can't cast any, and all combat damage will be prevented.
Love me some Orange Chant. Oh, Fell, yeah. That's one of my favorite cards of MH2. MH3, excuse me. That dog is very nice.
We could flash that in here, right?
We could.
Oh, so I can.
You can also do it on your opponent's turn.
So I guess I'll put this on.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
is it worth doing?
Oh, just kidding. Yes.
Would you like to pay the 11?
Draw for this.
You
Yeah.
can't.
To skip my
Oh,
draw
because you
step.
draw, because we haven't drawn for the turn. So we
Yeah,
get-
so William was supposed to do this actually in the draw step because
That
of
happens. Alright.
the Esper Sentinel.
So now that's in the graveyard, and I'm in my main.
A little small misstep, but I think was trying to play around maybe something like, maybe not exactly Mana Tithe, but these decks used to be blue, right, for Spell Pierce. So
we just get to play our lands. You're going to do anything. No point in attacking either. Just passing the turn back. Big draw step. Looking for a Wrath or some sort of kill spell. Maybe another Chant would do it.
One
ring?
ring? The One Ring, if not a Wrath.
Would you like to pay the 11? No, you can draw another card. It's a Sagada's Aid.
Yep.
I now gain protection. 4 life. We might not even want to tap it at this point.
I think you probably have to tap at some point, just because you need to find cards that matter, and you have the Teferi that can unsummon it, right? And you have the Cosmic Rebirth that can gain you 3 life, get back a land or something here. So, we might not see it this turn, but I imagine at the end of turn we'll probably see a ring activation.
Looks like end of turn we're going to flash in everyone's favorite dog.
Fell.
Have you got? Is it everyone's favorite dog? Is there another dog that comes to mind?
This is my favorite dog.
Okay, well that's
I
what
met
that is.
I met that dog in real life too. It's very cute. That dog's based off the set leads dog. He tweeted about that. It's pretty cool. It's a sweet puppy.
Draw. It's another land, I think. These aren't the lands we want to be drawing. We'd love something like an Ink Moth or something in this situation. We can get the Narset off the battlefield this turn, though. Is there anything worth blinking here? Is there anything we can gain advantage of if we blink?
Well, if William had attacked with the ring, you could theoretically blink the ring in order to prevent that. Now, you can.
Oh, I like this. Because that's just draw an extra card, right? Because the equipment will come back in end of turn because of the Paladin. We get to go another card deeper.
Yes. That's a nice one. I missed that line for sure.
Okay, here comes our 5th land, which we definitely don't want when you're in the aggro deck, but we'll take it. There are no 1 rings in this deck. One of the few decks in the room not playing that card.
Yeah, also worth noting, Francesco here, by shocking this in, now has that Solitude up. So if there is a Supreme Verdict, we'll have, at least putting William to 1. That's not nothing. That turns off fetch lands.
Okay.
Now it looks like Francesco's maybe using his mana for
Sagada's Aid. So now all the equipment are going to have instant speed as well. So here it comes. Counter on here, draw a card from here, equip here. That's a lot of triggers on the stack. It all went really, really well for him. I think that was a Paladin drawing off the Paladin. End of turn, tap the ring. Go a card deeper. Untap. Really looking for one of the many Wraths that we have in this deck. We've got the Temporal Lockdowns. That'd be a nice answer to everything on the battlefield. We've got Supreme Verdict as well. Prismatic Endings, Chance, Solitude, so many good draws. Even just another ring would be great right here.
Yeah, I was gonna say just chaining rings is pretty important. And we mentioned before, right? Are we gonna make it to turn 5? And we talked about how like probably it's gonna happen, and it's not game over, right? Like it doesn't mean just Hammer's lost, and we're seeing it right here, right? Like it's turn 5, and William is sort of like trying to stay alive.
We did find another Chant, so we can definitely stay alive at the minute. No Bone Crusher Giants or any shenanigans like that over on the other side. But then what do we do after that? We still got this Cosmic Rebirth. That can gain us another 3 life if needs be.
I think we just have this game won pretty easily. I'm not sure this. So like you can play Teferi, bounce your ring, upkeep, or sorry, draw. You Orem champ them, right? You have Teferi, so they can't respond. Then that buys you like a lot of time, and you like play the ring again, and then you make your land drop, and then you'll probably draw another land, and you can Teferi ring again, right? And that buys another turn. I mean, like obviously it isn't over. The game might last a while. But Francesco, you know, doesn't really get to do much for like 5 or 6 turns here if you tap out for that Teferi.
So Chant in the upkeep. Is that?
The Mana Tithe is in hand for Francesco. And,
I was about to say.
That could be a game-winning card here. We'll have to see how it goes.
One time, please. Like, there's nothing more I enjoy on coverage than a Mana Tithe, like getting somebody.
Cannot attack.
Here comes a Stoneforge Mystic to the grip. Would it change anything?
Pass.
The Tithe?
Take 2.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it to go down to
Not
1.
if we had played the Teferi earlier. Now that we haven't, you might be able to just tithe the Teferi to tap down a land, right?
So let's go down to 3.
Yeah, William doesn't have anything. He just has more counter spells.
Whoa, was able to take it down. That's crazy, but yo, it happens. We're gonna see Harrow taking that one down. Game number 1. Did not expect it, but Francesco got there. So let's look at sideboards. What is William gonna have in this back control deck to take us to a game 2 and hopefully game number 3 for him to be able to take this down? That's the main. Sideboard's gonna appear set momentarily. Mason is then gonna tell everybody at home what he would do.
Yeah, so we have a lot of pretty interesting cards here in the sideboard. So Consigned fights over all of the hammers pretty well, right? It can sometimes do some other weird stuff too, but you could do that. Ceremonious Rejection, very similar spot, fights over artifacts. These temporary lockdowns, we talked about how that's what we were digging for in game number 1 there. Probably going to see those come in. And then Subtlety is a card I imagine we'll see come in. You know, a great way to sort of start stabilizing the battlefield once you've taken care of everything, right? Your opponent plays their follow-up threat, you Subtlety it, you start hitting in, but also just a 0-mana way to interact. Those are the ones that jump out to me. The days of doing Narset stuff, probably not the most appealing. I can imagine keeping in like a Narset, especially on the play, but I imagine we're going to see some swaps there. Really depends on the way you want to play the games out here from William Ho.
Do you think it gets better after sideboard, so to speak? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like the deck's was going to be pretty good game 1, but like, does it get even better game 2, or do we just bring in a couple, little extra bits to temper lockdown?
I imagine William is probably a pretty big favorite game 1 there. It really depends too on how the hammer sideboard looks. You know, I don't imagine there'll be a ton of stuff. We'll take a look at that real quick here with the hammer deck.
Segue into the hammer sideboard. So hammer deck, we don't see too much, but was able to look pretty good there in game number 1. This is the sideboard. What do you like bringing in?
So interesting sideboard here. There isn't a lot of cards that jump out to me that I actually want. At least not at first glance. Now, there's maybe some stuff I'm kind of processing in real time here. You could argue Pithing Needle is a card that you can use to stop Narsets and Teferis, right? Don't really sure if I want that, but you are a Saga deck, so the first one's pretty low cost. You know, you have a lot of good cards in your main deck, like Lava Spur Boots, and you already have the main deck Needle. So you have some good ones to search up. Maybe the second one's good. I just don't think we have much here. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. You could definitely silence to stop double spells, but honestly, you probably just bring in your March of Otherworldly Lights to fight over the temporary lockdowns and call it a day.
Yeah, it's really interesting sideboard, but let's see how well it pans out as we're going to move back down to the match for game number 2. William's going to be on the play on this one. Which is exactly where you want to be when you go up against these aggro decks. These are the opening hands. I see a Narset, Chant, Teferi, and I think 3 or 4 lands. It's pretty ideal. And then over on Frank's side, that's just lands and spells. I'm happy with that. Ooh, and it's got one of the new promo planes that you can. I think you can only get them from Magicon Vegas, if you were to
Very
spend
cool.
so much money. And we're going to start off with a Giver of Rules. Get that activated on the battlefield. Little fetchy poo, most likely Surveil Land, but does have access to Triumphs in this deck, 'cause it is a 3-color deck. We're going to go digging a little bit. Just making sure there's no what's the 6-mana enchantment I'm thinking of that's good with the multiple coloured lands?
What?
What's it? 6-mana enchantment that costs
Binding?
1 less. Binding, that's the one. I was like, I was
Okay.
looking if there's any bindings in the deck because the amount of different coloured lands.
Yeah, I've never thought of that card. I mean, it is 6 mana. I know that from Zur killing me all the time, but you know.
You never cast it for 6 mana.
Yeah, you just can't. I mean, I guess you can, but you can't.
Submission Ray.
The
Tap
DFC
lands.
here.
Go away, take it out.
That one's huge, by the way. Like the blue-white. Oh, I'm gonna kill them on coverage. Flip your cards from new players at home. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, that one's great because it pitches to subtlety and solitude.
That's my favorite brain fart of Mason today.
Oh, I hate when they don't flip the lands. There's some new player at home who tunes in and they're like, "Why is that spell on the battlefield?" And you know what? You're right. Why is there a spell on the battlefield now? That's a valid question. You're valid.
Well, we're going to play Inkmoth Nexus, and we're going to get in there for point of damage. It all adds up. Drop William down to 18.
Who's the
18 more
beatdown?
attacks
It's
like
me.
Yeah, 18 more attacks. It's going to be game over. I think that was the 1 ring drawn for the turn. We're going to shock in this famine, go down to 16, and play a Teferi.
Yeah, and Teferi is one of those cards that, like, at first glance, you would think is kind of medium in these matchups. But if you stick it, it just makes the game so easy. Because a lot of what the Hammer deck tries to do is play on these tempo games on low mana access. So making them play sorcery speed, especially if you have damage-based removal, is huge. Now, obviously, you know, this blue-white-green control deck doesn't use damage-based removal. But still, the unsummoning and the forcing to play at sorcery speed comes up a lot.
This is an interesting turn. Like, do you want to deploy more to the battlefield, or do you want to do this and get the Teferi off the battlefield? I personally like this line. I'd say because Teferi, on the face of it, doesn't seem too scary, but it really does impact the game plan that we want to achieve. And we do have a follow-up play, which looks like it's going to be the Giver again. Or would you have gone for something like a Stoneforge Mystic Giver this time?
No, I think, you know, Francesco kind of nailed it there, right? Like, obviously there are times where you shouldn't fight with the Teferi, but right here, you know, you've got a lot of flashy cards. Let's just hold up and get rid of that Teferi. Obviously, land go favors William a little bit, but we're not out of it. We do deal damage in such huge chunks that if we can pick the right spot, we can win.
Well, we've got the 4th mana that we need. That can either get us a basic, keep our life total nice and high, and then we can deploy the ring. Don't think we particularly got any other great lines. Might be another Teferi in hand. You can bounce the Giver again, but then you're just spinning the wheels. Not really worth it. Definitely a higher upside to playing the 1 ring. So you might not be able to do it in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, get it in while the getting's good. I say with so much hope and love in my heart.
Here it comes. Protection trigger's going to happen. Tap it instantly. Temptation counter on it. All right, Supreme Verdict was the draw. What would you say? What if the Wizard did something spicy and crazy and said you're only allowed to play 1 copy in Modern?
I think that is a terrible decision and hacky to hell.
Okay. Just look. I've got to ask.
Yeah, I love where your head's at. I love where your head's at. You wanted to ask me. I wanted to give you a. Here's a good point. For the people that say the lore on the 1 ring, you know, there's only 1 Oko in Magic, right? You know, there's only 1 Chandra. There's only 1 of your legendary creatures. So, like, listen, if you want to change the rules for legendary stuff as 1, we can have a conversation. That's all I'm saying.
I don't even want to know what everything looks like if that was to actually happen. That'd be pretty crazy. But here comes Springleaf Drum being tapped. We've got promos to galore for last RC season here. We've got the Supreme Verdict, got Springleaf Drum. This is going to hopefully not see a Force of Vigor. So white card ditch plus 2 extra mana. So the ring is going to get exiled here. Not too bad. A little setup and stopping off the card draw engine on the other side as we pass back to William.
Yeah, you know, and William there, it is not what he wants, right? Like, he wants the 1 ring to stick around and to kind of run the game low on resources. But, you know, getting rid of a card like March that can be very frustrating, you know, against cards like a Temporary Lockdown that you're relying on, isn't the worst exchange ever. And as long as you don't die because of this setup, you know, you're pretty happy with that exchange longish term. Because just playing draw go favors you, and force negations found will.
a good one to potentially find here. We would ditch us a card, but as of that last turn that you spoke about, not only did it waste the turn here from Frank on the left of the screen, but also cost a card to deal with the one ring, which of course drew a card in itself. So we'll definitely up on the card resources right now. Can afford to take that force if he wants to take it. Has other options. That's why we're seeing him in the tank right now. Also, they've got to imagine that Narset's going to be sticking around.
Yeah, I can't imagine the Narset's going to die. Like, obviously, we could just see animate on the land. Everyone attacks the Narset. But once again, if that happens, that's just sort of like, hey, draw a card, you know, your opponent passes the turn back, maybe they play a land drop, right? Now, the real worry here is those Inkmoth Nexuses get hammered up, right? That's where things get tricky. Now, Force Negation is the perfect find there, because that means, you know, this Giver of Runes won't be able to protect anything via the, you know, removal protection it provides. But, you know, if Francesco has double hammer, it could be very good.
Play this Ornithopter / mana creature. We do have the Stoneforge Mystic in hand, so that would have been the hammer to go find and equip for lethal. But oh, there's another hammer in hand.
There's a hammer in hand, but the problem is, so you can play the hammer, or you play the Stoneforge, right? Search your deck for a hammer. Animate the Inkmoth and attack. You only have 1 mana, right?
Yeah, that's brutal.
So, and you know William just searched up a Force Negation. Now, Stoneforge Mystic, very powerful card, lets you, you know, put equipment into play without casting them. So if you can make him, you know, maybe not fight over the Stoneforge, excuse me, it sticks and then lives for a turn cycle, it can then activate and sneak the hammer in around counter magic. So Francesco might be thinking like, okay, is it better to trade for the Force and a random card in hand? Or do I need to play the Stoneforge Mystic, you know, maybe just grab a Cauldron or something and look like that's going to be the game plan I'm doing, and then, you know, fight that fight. Or maybe grabs a hammer so that, you know, you don't fight over the Stoneforge. Lots of different ways to play here.
I think I'm grabbing a hammer in this instance. But then...
Sorry, I had to think about it.
I think I'm also grabbing a hammer, because I think if you grab Cauldron, that incentivizes the fight over Stoneforge Mystic, right? And you don't want the fight to be over Stoneforge Mystic. You want the fight to be over, you know, like things that you actually win.
But do you like? I'm not thinking in the realm here, but I'm just going to cast both of these on a non-infect creature and just get. What was it, 15?
Yeah, but you know there's a Force Negation, and your opponent played a blue-white MDFC land.
But that stops the first hammer, is what I'm saying. So the second hammer means I'm at least connecting for like 10 points of damage here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're connecting for 10, right? The whole thing, though, is if Will just goes Wrath, right? Like, you still have a hammer left over, but if you put both into play, then you're in big trouble.
So you're thinking is basically set up, get 1 count at this turn, and then potentially set up for, if the worst was to happen next turn, you can just go for this kind of the same line again.
Exactly, yeah, you can do that, and then, you know, you have the ink kill there. Where now what we're doing is, we're just forcing the Force Negation to be here, right? Which, you know, does get the Force out of hand, right?
So there you go. That's exiled. I think we have to think about doing what I was saying, equipping the second one just to get a big chunk of damage in.
Well, this Ornithopter just got played this turn.
Yep, definitely can't attack with that.
You can attack with the Giver, but obviously that's going to open you up to spot removal as well.
No blocks. Last card's going to be Hammer. Hammer's going to come in. This is going to be 11 points. We'll drop Will down to 3. Within lightning bolt range, but lucky for Will, no lightning bolts on the other side. Whip here. But that means, you know, Frank's completely tapped out, no cards in hand, does have double Inkmoth, but of course we know that they do damage in infect, not normal damage. That's another Force. Supreme Verdict is in hand. Click down. Let's have a little look what else we can find. That's 2 land, Solitude, and just found that the Lion's revealed, so we do find a spell at least.
Yep, that's a big one. This turn, you know, you're just going to Verdict here, and then you have Force Negation, plus pitch whichever card advantage card you think is the worst. Probably, honestly, Narset here.
Supreme Verdict's going to deal with these 3 creatures.
Yep, and now we enter the Forever Times, which is Francesco needs to draw a way to equip the hammer, and he'll win the game. Or he needs to attack very slowly, and he'll win the game. But William is very good at stopping that second thing. So he just needs to survive, and with Force Negation in hand, he's covered from the worst outcome, which is Stoneforge. I'm sorry, equip the Colossus Hammer immediately.
Yes, let's go. 5-turn clock. Maybe not.
Oh,
6-turn clock. Both at Narset. Doesn't want to get destroyed by like a Day's Undoing or something. Just pass the turn back.
I think you might already be destroyed by Days Undoing, friend, but that's okay. I like the fight here.
Another Narset in hand.
Yeah, this
5.
makes me Lorien revealed. Let's go, Will. Oh, God.
What's the other one do? What's the energy one do? They can't block in something else?
Yeah, it's like you can't engage in combat.
Oh
for
yeah,
a turn.
that's not what we're playing.
Yeah, that's a tap land that pitches the Solitude, Force, and Subtlety.
Temporary lockdown. Get rid of those cards that are on the battlefield. Sure.
Will, where's the advantage bar? Because it's swung in the favor of Bant Control here.
You're asking me, an Infect player, which side I want the advantage bar to be on. There's a real answer, and then there's a will answer here.
Yeah.
And look, this is a 5-turn clock that you can't deal with. Well, no, it's not. It's still a 6-turn clock. We're really scared of this Narset, be able to find more spells and more.
I like fighting the second one. The second one was going to draw a card. The first time, it wasn't that scary. There's no, I don't think there's any proliferate stuff going on.
That Solitude drawn for turn really changes my math on this one. Yeah, I'm with you now. I'm pretty sure that we're just spinning the wheels, going through the motions.
This is a nitpick moment, and I hate doing these. If I was William, I would have just passed because my opponent has shown that he hates Narset, and I would just be like, "It draws the card, baby. Draws my card for turn. He's just gonna keep attacking it." Obviously your opponent might switch up their game plan, but I do think that like there is some merit to just like hanging out and not rushing it, because your opponent's like shown the way they've played, and adapting to the way your opponent plays versus like strict like heuristics is so important. Because heuristically, what William did is perfect, right? Hey, this Narset's basically dead. It's not getting any cards. I should just cycle here. But our opponent has shown, hey, I'm going to fight over this Narset.
I'm really hoping we see some sort of crazy shenanigans with like Witch Enchanter coming down, destroying the enchantment, equipping everything, and being able to get like a one-shot in with an Ink Moth straight away. That's my hope for this game right now. Some sort of crazy blowout like that.
I think that's a very realistic thing to have happen. Like, Witch Enchanters are 4 of, and he's not going to sign them out because they're also just 4-mana 2/2s, right? Like you hit the late game and they just attack. So
William is in his element right now. Every control player's dream. Got the board control, drawing loads and loads of cards, to the point where we're even missing our land drops. We've got so many cards in hand. Spells are good, lands are good. So many options. Frank on the other side just has to be like, yep, come on, carry on, yep, go, I'll play this, carry on, and go. It's one of those ones that you're not 100% to lose this game. Like, you've got a very small chance, but it's rough for you. Got to just watch your opponent play Magic.
yeah, it's rough, all right.
The body language says it all. Arms crossed, do what you want, it's fine. Maybe this is a sell though, because we do have a doggo to flash in end of turn if we need to. William is only at 4.
Yeah, he's only at 4, but and that's why I just think the Orm Chant is such a nice get here, because the Orm Chant lets you be safe from any sort of like shenanigans. Like for example, because technically William did see the Disenchanter, right? The Witch Enchanter, pardon me. Because that was a land played multiple times in game 1. Now, it was played on the backside, so maybe William didn't realize. But he knows that's a thing that could happen to him. And so having the Orm Chant's pretty big there. Obviously, Consign also gets rid of that.
Can we find ourselves an island? A little bit of land cycling. Definitely important in control decks to hit your land every single turn. You're going to get yourself a Surveil land. The maze is going to let us set up the top card. Now, is there like a little weird line that if William taps down too low on mana, that is that out like we spoke about with the Witch Enchanter?
For sure. I mean, there's that out. Like you mentioned also to Esphelia the dog, right? Like William is not in a totally locked up position right now. He's in a very strong one. but it is not 100% a win yet.
Is going to pass a turn. End of turn. Doggo. William looks at the huge grip of cards that he's got. One of them being Solitude, remember.
And remember, he can just hard cast that.
That's what I mean. The hard cast is
Yeah.
like, sure.
Yeah, the game will be not, I want to say over, but it's going to be in a really tough spot. And remember, you need to kill the dog, so the dog can flicker that temporary lockdown. Now, flickering the lockdown means the dog would die, but you would get redraws and equips and stuff like that, which would be pretty bad.
So that's 2. And William completely tapped out. No cards in hand. Draws for the turn. Didn't get a good look at it. Didn't show us at home either. William at 4. We've got 2 ink moths. Which I imagine one of them's probably going to take rid of this Narset. They've hit every other Narset. It's enough that we put Frank in the tank. I was waiting for myself to say that line at some point.
There you go. Proud of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm here for at least the next round or 2.
I'll tell you what, I'm about to leave at this rate. I need to get in combat, buddy. Giddy up. You know what I mean?
Nope.
You ain't winning this game via card advantage. Start attacking.
But we're thinking about it. The clock is also an issue. We saw that going into the last round. It went to time. Yeah. If this was to go to time, only one of these decks can actually win in time, realistically.
Yep.
Here comes Ink Moth. We are going to activate that.
Worth mentioning too. We talked about it earlier. All those Narsets we fought over. I think we should have been at least 2, in fact.
Ooh. Okay, here comes the Flame. It's not Flame of an Orbit, it's the Forge of an Orsa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Forge, but there's no equipment in the graveyard to get back and equip. Which, of course, every equipment at the minute as well would draw us a card.
We're so close from Williams' perspective. Yeah, I was going to say we can just play this Kahira. We have the pitch cast on Solitude. Attack for 4. Attack for 4. Attack for 4. We're going to win very quickly. This
might just be enough, and attack for 4, go up to 8. That gives us the outside chance of being able to get a dub here. Just having that extra Solitude in hand is just huge in this instance. There is no line of being able to get rid of the enchantment to then bring back everything to then equip a flyer and win that way. And just passing the turn back again. Slowly getting out of the grip. It's a slow bleed, isn't it? That's what this is. It's slow bleed.
It's really, it's a really bad spot when like the Ink Moths aren't even getting in combat, right? Like we feel like we need to hold these back. It's just getting out of control here for Francesco. And this is like what the game looks like so often. There's like a slim light of hope. I think
Maybe
we kind of passed that point earlier, but
I was thinking maybe it was a Solitude. Maybe that's why we didn't attack, holding up the 5 mana. Play another Paladin here.
Yeah.
Last card lands here. We'll just sandbagging. Solitude end its turn. Deal with one of these. Now we're attacking for 8 lifelink a turn.
Yeah, and that's a 2-turn clock currently.
Find the ring, just to really insult to injury.
Yeah, this is a pack it up moment. Like I understand wanting to play it out, but now you're at the spot where you're dead in 2. The ring buys a turn. You gotta start jump blocking pretty soon. It's okay to play it, I think, to here, but now you're kind of in a spot where time is realistically a thing, right? Like you have a lot of hard decisions to make as the hammer player in this spot, and like when to go for and when to not. So getting an extra, 20, 30 seconds could be game winning. Yeah, we do see that, draw for turn, it's nothing good. Let's move on.
You also got to remember, we're on camera. Getting a feature match doesn't happen every day. It is, of course, happy for us because we've got the beautiful Anzed bringing us this amazing coverage. So that's game 2. We're going to just jump back to the booth quickly while we kind of change some things around. But we'll be going back down for game number 3, where Hammer will be on the play, of course, which is exactly where it wants to be. It wants to get that early explosive draw. Oh, we are moving straight down to it. We get to have a little look at that opening hand. What's the ideal for each of these players? Start with what's the best opener Frank could have?
Yeah, I mean, typically I think the best thing you can do is like pretty quickly threaten the hammer kill, right? Like you don't even have to go for it, but the fact that you're threatening it matters a ton, right? From William, you want to have a way to, so you're like having like a 0 mana way to interact. So like something like Force Negation or Solitude, but also having cards like Prismatic Ending here in Contemporary Lockdown help counter that hand. And you're when you're in these control decks, what you're looking for is to sort of stop what I'm describing as the best draw from your opponent, right? And so this hand here, while not the best hand ever, is a solid hand. Lockdown, ending, ring, 3 lands, that will get the job done a lot of the time.
Where over on the other side, we've got Frank is on a 1-lander Springleaf Drum draw, but does have extremely powerful cards in there. See a couple of hammers, seems to guide his aid. See a Ginger Brute. Let's go. And that might even be the play turn 1. It is.
Yep.
Apt, sideways, get in for a point of damage.
Calm
William's going to
down.
drop down to 19.
Big Brute coming in.
No, second temporary lockdown. Could be great in this matchup. Our issue's a little tricky here.
Life
Fire
totals
off
are
the-
a bit off. I'll see if we can fix that there. There's a shock DMDFC, not a bolt one.
Does it cost 2?
Yeah.
I thought they were all 3.
Oh no, sorry, they are 3. My bad. Spoilers. They were all 2 for a very long time. My mistake.
Being in your brain is something crazy, my friend. I tell you, it's something crazy. They're like, no, that's what he used to do. Oh, this is what he does now.
Yes.
That's why we get you in the booth, though. We get a little bit of insight. But what we do know is that Frank is missing land drops. Only has the 1. So if he was able to have that second one, could have been super explosive, especially of that hand that he's got. But now, where does William point this ending? Do we do it to the Springleaf? Do we do it to the Cigar's Aid? Do we do it to the Ginger Brute?
I think it's Aid. It's tempting because your opponent's on 1 land. So you do have that land blow up potential, right? But I think the Aid is the card that matters the most. And if your opponent, like, let's pretend they just had 2 lands in play, you would not go after the Brute, right? And if your opponent floods out, that's typically a thing you want to have happen. So just get rid of the Aid and slow and steady win the race here.
This is going to be brutal. No second land drop again. We're going to use the mana we got for the Giver of Runes. Then we use the Springleaf Drum to play the hammer. But we all know next turn, William's got that 3rd mana that he's going to need to play that temporal lockdown and just clear this whole battlefield up.
Yep, and remember, that's going to buy a ton of time. While Francesco does have cards like March of the Lordly Light that we can pitch cast to get rid of the lockdown, that's just buying William time, right? And that's assuming we're not getting force negations, right?
How's a 4 for 1? Is that good for you? Is that good?
That's pretty nice.
It's nice. There comes Ink Moth. Now, there is a land, but it is a colorless land, but we would have loved to have that a little bit sooner. We do have that March in hand that you spoke about, as well as another hammer and I believe a paladin. So we can do it for free here, right? We can pitch 1, pay the extra 1 to make it free, get rid of the temporal lockdown, end of turn. Have a look at Will's hand, see if there's anything crazy that can stop that, any forces, any counter spells, etc.
Yeah, this is a tough spot because you can pitch cast, right? You can pitch the Pure Steel Paladin and then you lose the equip, but you get your creatures back. But William, if he has a force negation now, right, it's kind of like the best time to get it because the force is never, like, it's always going to get better, right? Unless he gets rid of all his blue cards, not have it up because we'll have the mana up. You can try doing on the end of his turn, right?
Yeah.
That's about it. That's your 1 spot.
Oh my goodness. Find Chant Teferi and double lockdown. Shows
Yeah.
it's a fairy.
I mean, I think
Nope.
Francisco
I
has
don't
a
think we've got
chance to
land.
top deck here, Will.
I don't think we've got a land here. And this would...
Oof.
We didn't do it.
Yeah, I think he was wanting to hope to maybe draw a land and maybe get the Paladin, like get to hold it, and sort of just hard cast the March. But it's getting worse and worse. Now, we know William doesn't have the Force Negation, right? And he has a bunch of spells, and maybe he'll tap out, and that'll give Francesco time. But it is getting in a tough spot here. And this Pithing Needle, not the worst card ever, going to stop the Narset, or you could use it to stop the Teferi. But, it isn't really making huge headway here.
Yeah, it's turning more and more into an uphill battle every single turn. That we're not only missing lands, but not being able to deploy threats. It looks like we're going to go Pithing Needle, which definitely isn't a threat, but it is going to resolve. I guess you're naming Teferi here.
Yeah, if you don't name Teferi just bounces the needle, and then you
Yeah.
use your Narset, right? And then it doesn't matter naming it. So it probably makes the most sense to name Teferi, unless you want William to play Teferi, right? Like that's the only reason you would name Narset really.
So Hammer's going to come down. I think we're trying to set up for a line where we get Paladin down, destroy the Temporal Lockdown, and then able to equip the Ink Moth in the same turn. That's why we're seeing multiple artifacts coming down almost while the shields are down, because we do find that a force negation there.
Yeah, and I really like playing the Teferi here because even though it's turned off, that passive is still very live. And making your opponent play at sorcery speed, you know, when you're kind of got your like this sort of weird house of cards holding everything up, is very tempting, at least to me personally. And you have plenty of answers to the Pithy Needle, you know. You have other lockdowns. And honestly, splitting up the lockdowns isn't the end of the world. You have prismatic ending. So spending your 3 mana there and setting up for the future turn is pretty tempting, but I understand the wanting to sort of redraw. And we found a land in some ways that the Lorien revealed.
This is crazy, by the way, that we've drawn 2 cards plus Narset twice and not one land's been hit. Narset, of course, obviously would put lands to the bottom, but no lands have been found off that. That's the top 10 cards of this deck were not lands, and yet we're missing lands. It's pretty remarkable. But here comes well, we're going to animate the Ink Moth to make itself a creature. Then we're going to equip the hammer to the Paladin, making the 3rd artifact, so Metalcraft is going to be enabled. Here comes the land cycle. This is going to be able to let us find our land and shuffle all those non-land spells back into our deck, so they can now be at the top if needs be. What is going to be?
I think it's a temp lockdown, Will.
Oh, we've got Solitude in hand as well. No, it's going to be an ending on the hammer.
All right, so the lockdown's there, but we're just not waiting to fight over the Pure Still yet. Reasonable. We're just going to fight over all the creatures. I mean, all the threats, excuse me.
Yep, a 2 for 2 ourselves. That's fine. Then take down on our set. Go digging again. Ooh, we find the Days Undoing.
Honestly, just take the Orm's Chant. Your hand is kind of stacked.
Nah, I'm greedy. I'm way too greedy for this.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
We've got the Solitude in hand as well to deal with the Ink Moth. I would have so snapped it off.
That's exactly my point, Will. We have the Solitude. This Narset is the hero.
Giver Runes is going to be the follow-up play, passing the turn back. Everything going well for Will here. Grip for the cards just needs some lands. That's like the one thing missing from this equation.
Yeah, but a great place to be with all these free pitch spells. You're able to kind of, you know, just like without lands, still double spell and fight over the big things. Like we said before, Hammer Time's a critical mass deck. So if you can pick apart the pieces that matter, these miscellaneous things are troublesome and they can reassemble, but they do have to get there, right? And that's a big ask.
Will, so lucky, taps the ring, finds the land needs, plays it for turn. Another land, this is on the other side for Frank, though not exactly what he needs now. Would have loved that on turn 2, even turn 3 when he had that super explosive draw. But this land doesn't mean that we can use the March now to get rid of the Temporary Lockdown on the other side end of turn. But you must imagine there's some sort of answer here for Will with this many cards in hand and access to the one ring.
Yeah, I like this play from Francesco a lot. Basically, my only way to win is to hope he taps out where he can't force negation and I can fight over it. And we do see the tap out. Now the March is there. Can't pitch cast. Can't Orm's Chant.
Will's thinking. He's like, nope, that's going to resolve. Here comes no triggers actually happening from this.
Yeah, and notably, remember the Teferi can't activate because Pithy Needle's on it. Now, we see Orm Chant in hand. That means, you know, we're going to be fine in that regard. If we hit a land here, we can temporary lockdown again.
Nah, what's the point? We've got the chant. We don't need to do that. Just why take another 2 points when I don't need to?
I agree.
Upkeep. No damage. No spells. Go. Didn't get a good look at what that card was. Frank, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, you can attack with your Ink Moth to deal damage, right? An infect, excuse me. But
would that happen? Would it not be prevented?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, it was kicked. Yeah. My bad. I was thinking it applied to the creatures in play, but it's just a rule. Yeah, temporary lockdown here relocks them up.
Let's say even more backbreaking than the first one. Then a Surveil. Now we can activate our ring and we can activate our Teferi. Draw 3. Will's going on speed mode now. He's like, I just need to, time is the only thing that beats me in this situation. Takes up Teferi, play it for an instant speed, 7 cards in hand, Nope, 8 cards in hand. Now 7 cards in hand. Pass it back to Frank. Okay. Do you have the counter spell?
Well, kind
No.
of. Consign gets the trigger.
Yep, that stops the trigger. You can have a 2/2. That's fine with me. Ring. Drop wheel down to 9. Draws again. Does have solitude, so we know there's a way in hand to gain life if needs be. Gonna go 4 cards deeper. This card seems really good and really fair. I feel like everyone should play this in their deck. What do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty good if your deck's trying to play any sort of normal game of Magic.
Pick
And
up the fairy. Play land for turn. Hard. Yep, we are hard casting the solitude here. You can gain 2 life. That's fine with me. I've now got 3 mana. The companion is not in play, just for everybody at home that's watching this. That is still in the companion zone. It's just we're getting to the point in the game where we've got so many cards and so many things happening. Lock you. Well, yeah, we're going to fetch. Lock you out the game. No damage can be happen. You can't cast any spells. Just give me my turn back. Nope. All right, you're going to play a land. Then pass your turn back. Take another 4 in the upkeep. Will goes down to 4.
I think Will had one too many cards in hand. Don't think it really matters.
Still got all these. Plays land for turn. Are we going to go cure? No, we're going to just draw 5.
Yeah, the best way to answer a One Ring is the One Ring. Also, just has this Teferi you can redo. Oh, it's just like those cards don't matter. I'm going to discard them in a second.
Yeah, take this down, bounce this, draw another card, play it again, get protection again. Modern's great at times. I think we might have already played the land this turn.
I think that was the land for turn. And
Did we not play the mystical? It doesn't matter at this point.
It does, but it doesn't. The game is over. Like, I swear that's more than 7 cards there. Okay, he is discarding more. Okay, I was like, you have all those ones set aside. Yeah, and I mean, look at this. Like, what is Francesco supposed to do?
When they're ditching multiple rafts and rings, it's just like, yeah, okay, cool. Fun game. Lock you out of the game again. Untap. Take no damage from my ring. Draw for the turn. Tick up to ferry.
Yeah.
Get this mush of lands that I've got.
Yeah, you get to attack once again with the solitude.
Attack for
put
4.
them down, and then you just have bounce the ring next turn too. So like, there's just no way you die.
That 5 might be us in extra turns, right? Or maybe it's not. Maybe they moved it away.
I doubt it. I mean, maybe. Game 2 did take forever. If it is extra turns, then we're going to see them pick up here. Okay, so it wasn't that. I think the 5 was from the One Ring because it was on 5 before.
Saga. Does that help us at all? 4 mana here. 3 mana. 4
You can
mana.
activate any mode on that Saga you want, friend.
Play the Witcher again. Is it resolve? It is. The trigger isn't. You now have a 2/2 for 4 mana. Value. Still got a grip for the cards. Pass the turn back. Solitude end of turn on the 2/2. You can gain another 2, go up to 9. This is 11 points of damage on the battlefield. I'm wrong, go up to 11, sorry. 11 points on the battlefield, but we do have a Inkmoth Nexus on blocking duty.
Oh, consigned for the activated ability?
Oh my goodness.
Does that,
you can't block. It doesn't matter. Can't block. Gain loads of energy. Will take this game down, advances to 3-0. But did it the long way, hammer time, it looks good. But I feel like we would see a completely different game if we were able to find that second land drop earlier. But it is what it is. There's another little camera view as we're going to come back to the booth.